Thank you so much for joining our Route 40 Transit-Plus Multimodal Corridor Project live event. We have with us tonight Councilmember Dan Strauss from District 6, and he would like to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you for joining us for this virtual town hall virtual meeting for the Route 40 Transit-Plus Multimodal Corridor Project. Route 40 has the third highest ridership of all metro bus routes, but it's late 20 to 35% of the time. The goals of this project have been to reduce peak transit travel times by 5 to 10% and improve service reliability. When I was briefed on this project earlier this year by the project team, I was surprised at the amount of improvements that they are able to make and quickly. I encourage you to give feedback to the project, whether it's by asking a question tonight during the Q&A or by emailing the project inbox after the event, or emailing me if you'd like. A little bit of background about me is I was born and raised in Ballard. I've been a lifelong transit rider, and I've used what are now parts of the 44 for years. I'm not surprised that it has the third highest ridership, only between the E and D lines, which are rapid ride lines. Route 40 is a route I use to get to and from work, to and from Fremont. I have at times even used it as a way for me to run my errands at shops along Westlake Avenue. For instance, Northwest Outdoor Center is one that I'm a kayaker, so I oftentimes use that. It's been fun to be able to catch the bus after work, get off the bus, run my errand, and then be able to catch another Route 40 bus. And that's because we have such a high number of buses running on the route. It's a bus route that I know that I don't have to wait more than 15 minutes to catch the bus, except for when it's running late. And that's what these improvements are all about. Before bus Route 40, there was not a direct link between Fremont and Ballard. You'd have to ride your bike or walk or unfortunately drive. Route 40 has replaced what used to be the Route 75 that I used to get around town and the Route 17, which I also used quite frequently. What I've experienced riding the Route 40 is from Fremont. At times I'll be waiting at the Fremont Bridge for 30 minutes without a bus coming, and then 3 buses come in a row. When these buses get stacked up on top of each other, it reduces the reliability that all of us need to be able to depend on transit. Before COVID pandemic began, I had a number of goals relating to transit, and that's to have consistent travel times, to wait no more than 15 minutes for your bus to arrive, and to get where you're going in a reliable travel time so that you can depend on transit. We need to ensure that we move the goods of people without getting stuck in traffic or at pinch points. So that means having good connections to other routes. Sometimes this means having bus-only lanes, which I'm a big supporter of. It also means having queue jumps, sometimes meaning relocating stops, and oftentimes giving signal priority to buses, because buses have a higher number of people in that bus than we do in the cars, and being able to give them a reliable transit and travel time allows for so many more people to truly rely on transit, and they have to be able to rely on transit if they are going to get out of their cars. We need to keep this work on Route 40 moving so that we don't delay these important spot improvements. In this fiscal climate, it is very key that we keep this project moving on the timeline that we've laid out. I want to in particular thank SDOT and Metro for working in coordination with each other, because oftentimes different levels of government aren't able to work together. I've been very, very impressed with everyone's ability to coordinate and get moving quickly. I especially want to thank Krista, Virginie, Kay, Jeff, and most importantly, all of our operators who make sure that we get from point A to point B and where we're going smoothly and safely. Thank you, team.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. We really appreciate your presence and your involvement with our project.
We couldn't do any of this work without you. You are what makes this work happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to have our pre-recorded PowerPoint play, and you will get some background and be introduced to our latest concepts. And welcome to this evening's outreach event for the Route 40 Transit Plus Multimodal Corridor Project. I'm Krista Dumpies, and I am the SDOT Communication and Outreach Lead for the project and will be your moderator for this event. So our presenters for this evening are, again, myself, Krista Dumpies, Senior Communications Lead within SDOT. Virginia Nadimi is a transportation planner with our project partner, King County Metro. Kay Yeswan is a senior project developer with the Project Development Division within SDOT. And Jeff Sangillo is a transportation planner with our design consultant, CDM Smith. Our presentation this evening will cover the following items: a brief project background, the project objective and scope, information from our online survey, concepts that are being considered, the current schedule and funding picture, and what the next steps are. Before we dive into the details of Route 40, I would like to highlight our SDOT vision, mission, and values. Seattle is a thriving, equitable community powered by dependable transportation. Our mission is to deliver a transportation system that provides safe and affordable access to places and opportunities. We are committed to these 6 core values: equity, safety, mobility, sustainability, livability, and excellence. Virginia will now give background on the project.
Thank you, Krista. King County Metro's Route 40 is one of our busiest, highest ridership routes in our system. Running north to south, and this map on the slide you see here is positioned horizontally, so you kind of have to tilt your head. North is on the left side of the screen. But running north to south, Route 40 is approximately 13.5 miles long and passes through the Northgate, Crown Hill, Loyal Heights, Ballard, Fremont, South Lake Union, downtown Seattle, and Pioneer Square neighborhoods. The Route 40 provides key connections within our transit system, including connections to the Rapid Ride C Line, D Line, E Line, the Route 44, the Northgate Transit Center, and future light rail service in Ballard. Route 40 buses are scheduled to arrive every 5 to 10 minutes during the peak morning and evening time periods. Bus stops are located approximately every quarter of a mile throughout the corridor. Over 95,000 people live within a half mile of the Route 40 corridor. This chart includes a composition of passenger types using Orca boardings to date for the Route 40. 81% of passengers are adults, and there are 4% of seniors and youth populations. Low income and disabled passengers make up 5% and 4% of passenger types. Typical weekday ridership on the Route 40 was at about 13,000 riders per day before the COVID pandemic. Again, the Route 40 is one of Metro's highest ridership routes and accounted for 3% of Metro's ridership before the pandemic. However, even during the pandemic, the Route 40 is still one of Metro's highest ridership routes. Its current average weekday ridership is at about 3,900 people as of June 15th, 2020. The Route 40 travels through some of the most congested areas of Seattle and is often slowed down by traffic. As a result, the Route 40's average bus speeds often crowd to between 12 and 15 miles per hour along the corridor, and in some of the more busy sections, its speed stops down to 10 or 5 miles per hour. The posted speed limit on the corridor varies from 20 to 35 miles per hour. While we don't expect transit speeds to always match up to posted speed limits, we want to make transit competitive with driving and get transit speeds and travel time closer to that of general traffic. Transit travel time reliability is the degree to which transit travel time along the corridor is uniform and predictable. On-time performance is measured by comparing actual travel times at time stops to scheduled arrival times. Metro considers buses that arrive up to 2 minutes before scheduled time and up to 6 minutes after the scheduled times to be considered on time. Metro has a minimum all-day on-time performance standard of no more than 20% of bus trips should be late. This chart shows the average percentage of late Route 40 trips during an average weekday in April 2019. As you can see, the Route 40 is often late at all times of the day, resulting in a slow and unreliable experience for thousands of bus riders. I will now turn it over to Kay to present on the project objectives and scope.
Thank you, Virginie. Hello, everyone. My name is Kay Yeswan, and I am the project developer of this project. As Virginie described, Route 40 is one of Metro's routes with the highest ridership, where transit speed and reliability will need to be improved to address the future projection of ridership. Route 40 corridor improvements were first identified as part of the Levy to Move Seattle and King County Metro's Metro Connects program. The objective of the Route 40 Transit-Plus Multimodal Corridor Project are to make transit trips for the bus riders faster and more reliable. The goal for the project is to reduce transit travel times by 5 to 10% over the existing service during peak periods. Some of the concepts you'll see later in the presentation will illustrate how we plan to make boarding and onboarding safer and easier, as well as connecting people walking and biking to the bus stops. We are also responding to community needs and priorities as we learn them through our outreach process. We are looking at 7 study segments along the Route 40 corridor, where we will focus on transit and multimodal improvements. From the north, which is the left side of the screen, the segment of Route 40 that we are studying are at Aurora, 105th and Greenwood, Aurora, 105th, Greenwood, 105th and Holman area, 85th and 15th in the Ballard Crown Hill neighborhood, Leary Market in the Ballard Market area, Leary 15th in the Ballard Bridge area, Northwest 36th Street from 39 to the Fremont Bridge, and 9th Avenue North and Westlake in the Westlake area. These study segments are identified based on traffic data and input from the community and King County Metro operators of where known congestion, low transit reliability, and low transit speed has been occurring. Note that the entire Route 40 corridor is being reviewed from Aurora to north of downtown, including improvements between these segments, but we have excluded studying south of downtown Seattle and the Northgate segment, since there are other transportation efforts such as the upcoming light rail that will inform how the Route 40 will be operating through these neighborhoods. Krista will now present on what outreach input has been received to date.
Thank you, Kay. There was an online survey posted on our project website until the beginning of April. We received over 1,000 responses. The survey presented and provided opportunities for feedback on bus ridership and neighbors' current experience on Route 40. Rider priorities were ranked through the numerous responses. The top priority reiterated our project objective of improving the bus speed and reliability. Other priorities included pedestrian and bicycle accessibility at new crossings, vehicular traffic, reduced traffic speeds for safety, and keeping parking. Of the speed and reliability project alternatives given, survey participants ranked them in the following order: bus-only lanes, queue jumps, transit signal priority, stop relocation or consolidation, and bus bulb outs. Kay and Jeff will now present further details on what concepts are being considered and specific draft treatments for the study segments.
Thanks, Krista. One main concept idea to achieve saving to transit travel time for Route 40 is to install bus lane treatments to designate a travel lane only for buses. An example of a bus lane only lane is shown on the right side of the slide. Bus lanes that are currently under consideration are shown as a dashed line on this map. From the north, they're located along 105th from Aurora, along Holman Road to North 85th, 15th Avenue Northwest, along Leary Way from Market to 15th Avenue Northwest, along Northwest 36th Street between North 39th to Fremont Avenue, and along Westlake Avenue North between 4th Avenue North to 9th Avenue North near South Lake Union. Depending on the location and existing conditions, we are looking at converting existing travel lanes to become either a transit-only lane, a business access and transit lane, which are called BAT lanes, where there will be a lane for transit-only use, except when motorists need to turn right, or peak BAT lanes, where there will be parking restrictions in the lane during the morning and afternoon peak driving times, and while BAT lanes are in operations. We currently do not plan to expand the existing travelway, so as we are reviewing the type of bus lane and location within the current right-of-way for transit speed and reliability, we will also review impacts to general purpose traffic and existing parking and curb space usage. Another idea for this project is related to improvements to transit stops. Transit stop ideas, such as the ones listed here, are being reviewed using boarding and off-boarding data, where we can achieve measurable transit travel time savings, and in coordination with usage of other bus routes. Signage, impacts to curb space, and business and alley access are also being reviewed for the improvements. Concept ideas along the roadway are focused primarily within the study segments and are listed here on the slide. While one of the project goals is to reduce how long it takes for the bus to arrive to their bus stop and to increase transit speed for Route 40, we also need to coordinate proposed improvements with SDOT's Vision Zero program of reducing posted speed limits to address safety issues and reduce collisions between vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians. Other ideas for the roadway include transit signal priority and queue jumps, which allow buses to be prioritized ahead of general purpose traffic at specific intersections. Turn restrictions, rechannelization, curb bowls, and other improvements are also being reviewed for improving Route 40's transit speed and reliability. And of course, we have improvements for people walking and biking, particularly associated with improving access to Route 40's bus stops. When we asked online survey participants what they prioritize between the walking and biking improvements, they share their preference towards improved sidewalks and crosswalks, accessibility at intersections, and improved bicycle paths, crossings, and connections. Route 40 crosses several existing and future bicycle paths, and the team is reviewing the coordination for the transit improvement, along with the funding availability to improve on safety and accessibility in these study segments. In the next few slides, Jeff will discuss key concept ideas that are being considered at the study segment and how these ideas will improve on transit speed and reliability.
My name is Jeff Sangillo. I'm the lead planner for CDM Smith, a planning and design firm working with SDOT and Metro on the Route 40 project. As described by Kay, the study team has identified numerous potential projects along the corridor. We are currently in the process of evaluating which combination of individual projects would work best. We're considering things like each project's ability to improve speed and reliability, as well as safety, benefits or impacts to pedestrians, cyclists, and the general public, and general traffic, equity, cost, and community input. The next set of slides are engineering drawings that highlight potential concepts for key locations along the corridor. They represent examples of how some of the project types that Kay just discussed might be implemented as part of a comprehensive set of improvements focused on improving speed and reliability for Route 40. However, it's important to note that these are still just potential options. We need to complete our evaluation process, which includes public input, to determine which projects will move forward as part of the preferred alternative. The first slide here shows the intersection of 9th and Westlake. The background that's a bit faded shows how the intersection looks today. The brighter colors highlight the proposed changes, including the reconfiguration of travel lanes and the bus-only space marked off in red. What's shown here is the inclusion of a transit-only lane for buses to continue south on Westlake Avenue at the intersection. Starting at Ward and 8th, it would designate the inner southbound lane as a left turn only for buses, allowing them to jump ahead of general traffic to increase their speed. The lane would continue through the intersections where buses would merge back with general traffic as they continue south. The image here shows several different potential projects in Fremont, just north of the Fremont Bridge. Project number 3 is a protected bike lane at North 34th Street. Bikes and buses would share a lane heading north because it aims to create a safe space for bikers in this congested roadway segment. Project number 12 is a traffic operations change that would restrict general traffic from turning right from northbound Fremont on eastbound 35th Street, providing additional protection for bikers so general traffic isn't turning across the protected bike lane. Project number 15 would improve and expand the bus stop at 34th Street, providing riders with a more comfortable place to wait for buses. This also has the added benefit of allowing buses to load and unload passengers more quickly. Finally, Project 17 would restrict all left turns at the intersection and move remaining northbound Fremont traffic to West 34th via left turn access at Evanston. Now we move further west towards the section of the corridor along Leary Way in Ballard, just north of the Ballard Bridge. Project number 20 updates the roadway channelization around Leary and 15th to create more space reserved for buses, as well as some turn restrictions along the corridor to speed up overall traffic flow. Project number 22 relocates an existing Route 40 bus stop to the far side of the intersection. This would allow the bus to take better advantage of transit signal priority and also place it in front of a commercial building, which would be more convenient for many riders. The new stop location would also have bus bulbs and other amenities for passenger comfort and increased speed of passenger loading and unloading. Further up along the corridor towards Leary, project number 18 shows bus lanes along Leary between Market and 15th. These bus lanes would be curbside lanes, meaning the general traffic would be allowed to briefly enter the lanes to make right turns at permitted intersections and in driveways for local businesses. Bus lanes represent some of the most substantial opportunities for travel time savings along the corridor by allowing buses to bypass congested sections. Also in this section, there are additional opportunities for consolidating existing bus stops. An example of this is project number 19. King County Metro knows where riders regularly board and get off the bus. When considering this, along with current walking distance between stops, SDOT and Metro can identify opportunities where stops can be merged together with minimal impact on riders. Because every stop a bus makes takes time, fewer stops means faster travel times for bus riders. As with other upgraded stops, the new station would have bus bulbs to further improve the boarding experience, as well as greenway crossing to improve pedestrian safety. The last slide of improvement examples shows additional bus lanes further north along the corridor. The image here shows just a short section of bus lanes around Dayton Avenue, which is designated as project number 36 in the area, as shown on the image. As part of our evaluation, we're actually considering this as two projects, 36 and 37, because it spans two focused segments of our study. The lane would actually extend along Holman Road from 15 Avenue Northwest to Aurora Avenue North. This would represent the longest proposed section of bus lanes along the corridor, spanning a little less than 2 miles. Bus lanes through this section of the corridor are anticipated to cut existing travel time during the peak period by approximately 25% as compared to existing travel time. I'll now turn the presentation back over to Kay to share our current project schedule and the funding associated with the Route 40 project.
Thanks, Jeff. The project is currently in the planning process where we are identifying specific improvements we plan to bring forth into the design phase. At this time, we anticipate the design process will commence in 2021 with a target construction period in 2023 through 2024. As we proceed forward through the completion of the planning and design processes, we continuously track our funding availability versus the cost estimate of the project. At this time, we have several funding sources identified for Route 40, made up of local and grant sources. The primary funding source is the Move Seattle levy. We know the amount shown here, including the $9.5 million Move Seattle levy, may be reduced over the coming months as we evaluate future year budgets given the current budget status. We will tailor our project scope based on available funding. Identify leverage funding shown here on this table is the grant and partnership funding that we have applied for, and we are awaiting results of the application.
Thank you, Kay. The next steps for the project will be to use feedback provided today, and any provided after this is uploaded through our project email address to continue to shape the final list of draft concepts. Our design team will continue to advance technical evaluations, which includes the operational review, cost, and construction feasibility of the alternatives. After that process is complete, we will present the final concepts to our internal stakeholders for a decision on which concepts to advance in design. The design team will then move forward to the 30% milestone, at which time there would be our next opportunity to come back to the public for another round of review and input. We anticipate this happening in early 2021. This concludes our formal presentation. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Kay. So we have our slide up again with the project inbox website. Please feel free to email us at any time. This event will be, it is being recorded and it will be posted as well on our webpage and sent out for those who weren't able to attend. But we are in our early phases of design, so we do anticipate returning when we get to our 30% design milestone, which will be in early 2021. So we look forward to sharing further updates at that time. So again, want to thank Councilmember Strauss for joining us. Thank all our team members. Thank you and have a good evening.